Hi radio fans, welcome to Behind the Mic from OTRpodcast.com. I'm your host, Austin Bach, and on this podcast we explore the history behind many of old-time radio's greatest performances. We jump around from series to series, picking one episode each week, and together we learn about the actors, producers, sponsors, and more before listening to that full episode as it was originally broadcast. If you have feedback for today's show or have a great idea for a future podcast, please send me an email at contact@otrpodcast.com. You can also send me a voice message by clicking the link in the show notes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a comment down below. Today's episode will begin after a brief message from our sponsor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? If yes, check out Anchor.fm. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First and foremost, it's free and will be forever. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Casey Crime Photographer, known by a variety of titles on radio including Crime Photographer, Flash Gun Casey, and Casey Press Photographer, was a media franchise from the 1930s to the 1960s. The character was a creation of novelist George Harmon Cox and was featured in the pulp magazine Black Mask, as well as in novels, comic books, radio, film, television, and theater. The central character Jack Flash Gun Casey was a crime photographer for the newspaper The Morning Express, and with the help of reporter Ann Williams solved crimes. He would later recount his stories to Ethelbert the bartender and other friends at the Blue Note Tavern and Jazz Club. Sponsors of the show included Anchor Hawking, Tony Home Permanents, Tony Shampoo, and Philip Morris. Today's episode was originally broadcast on August 29th, 1946. Please enjoy The Red Raincoat from Casey Crime Photographer.
Well, Casey, how are you coming along with that crossword puzzle?
Well, I'm stuck, Ethelbert, for a 7-letter name beginning with H, and it's a place in Ohio.
That's a tough one, Casey.
Not for me, boys, not for me.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, fellas. Yes, sir, the word you're looking for is Hocking. H-O-C-K-I-N-G. The Hocking Valley.
Hey, that fits. Hey, I get it. Anchor Hocking.
Oh, you said it, Casey. Anchor Hocking, the world's largest makers of household glass. Crime Photographer, brought to you by Fire King Oven Glass. Anchor glass containers, Anchor caps and closures. All products of Anchor Hocking, a great name in glass. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tony Marvin. Every week at this time, the Anchor Hocking Glass Corporation brings you another adventure of Casey, crime photographer, ace cameraman who covers the crime news of a great city. Written by Alonzo Dean Cole, our adventure for tonight, The Red Raincoat.
Night, about 9:30. Rain. Hard, pelting rain that has driven people indoors and left the streets deserted. At the corner, a bus stop. A woman alights from it. She wears a red, hooded raincoat that covers her head and most of her face. She turns into a side street lined with cheap walk-up apartment houses. Midway of the block, she's about to pass the entrance to an alley when, from its darkness, there's a gunshot. Then another and another. The woman falls. On the street, brakes are hastily applied to a cruising taxi. As it comes to a skidding halt, the driver...
Police! 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 Take cover! I heard those shots. Where? From that alley, I think. I didn't see no one.
Oh, this dame got it in the back.
3 bullet holes. Stay here, fellas. Don't let anybody touch her. I'm going to look in that alley. Get back, you people! Get back! This ain't a free show. There's been a murder here.
Push him back, Valetti, so I'll have room to shoot a picture.
I'm doing the best I can, Casey. Move, you folks, move!
That's better. There's one for page 1. Now,
That'll be all, Casey.
well, look who's finally got here, my old pal Logan.
How often do I have to tell you that no press pictures are to be taken at the scene of a homicide until after the police photographers get through?
I've got a rotten memory, haven't I, chum?
By rights, I ought to take that camera away from you.
Oh, no, you wouldn't do that to me, not with all these people looking on.
Oh, nuts. You cops, push this mob back. Clear the block so we'll have room to move around. Sergeant.
Yes, Captain.
Tell me what happened here.
I can tell you that, Logan.
Yeah?
The cab driver, that little guy over there, heard 3 shots fired from the alley here and saw this gal in the red raincoat fold up on the sidewalk.
Yeah?
A uniformed cop, this guy right here, heard the shots too, searched the alley and found nothing. Well, all the rest is up to you.
What does Doc's report show, Sergeant?
He said the woman was killed instantly, Captain. One of those bullet holes is in line with the heart. Of course, he can't be sure it followed that line through her body until she's turned over.
Well, don't do that when my tech men get through.
No, sir.
Anyone find out who the woman is?
Not yet, sir. When we can go through her pockets, we'll probably find something that'll...
Ann Williams is circulating through that crowd, Logan, trying to locate someone who might know... Say, here she comes now with a fat tape.
Hello, Captain.
Hello, Miss Williams.
Casey, this lady thinks she recognizes the dead woman.
Well, that's swell, Andy. If you can identify her, lady, your picture will be in the paper.
Say, I happen to be in charge here.
Oh, excuse us, Logan.
Who do you think the dead woman is, lady?
Well, as I was just telling this young newspaper woman officer, I can't be sure because the poor thing is lying on her face. But I'm almost positive that's the body of Nora Gellhorn, because she had a red raincoat exactly like that. She's the only woman in this neighborhood who'd wear anything so flashy. And I've got a notion that a certain person wanted her out of the way.
Huh?
What do you mean by that?
Well, her husband, officer, has been carrying on something disgraceful with another woman. Mrs. Gellhorn told me that herself. And she wasn't the sort who'd let a man divorce her just because he happened to fall in love with somebody else. So I think...
That her husband shot her?
Oh, I know it's an awful thing to say, mister, but from the goings-on I've heard about it, I think he's been planning to put her out of the way for a long time. As I was saying to my eldest daughter, Eloise, only last night...
Where do these Gellhorns live?
Oh, over there in the corner building on this side of the street. That's number 371, apartment 4C. I live in the apartment house next door. I'm Mrs. Patch, Mrs. Ida Patch. I said to my eldest daughter only last night
Excuse me, Mrs. Patch. Who's the other woman in this case, the one you say Gellhorn's been carrying on with?
Oh, her name's Randall, Emma Randall. She and her husband live in the same building as the Gellhorns. Their apartment's directly across from mine.
Hey, wait a minute. This Emma Randall has a husband?
Yeah, poor man. Hey, you know, he stands in the way of Ferris Gellhorn's plans, too, so if you policemen don't act fast and put that murderer behind bars...
We'll act fast, Mrs. Patch, if a checkup shows that your story is okay.
Oh, you'll find it's true, all right. I'm not the only person in this block who's been expecting a thing like this to happen.
Captain Logan.
Yes, Sergeant?
The photographers and tech men are finished. You can examine the body now.
Come on, Mrs. Patch. I want you to make your identification positive.
Oh, I hate to look at the poor thing. Oh, well, Captain, I know my duty.
Will you turn the body over, Doctor, so we can see the face? Thanks.
She wasn't a bad-looking gal, Annie.
Nope. Kind of pretty.
Oh.
Well, what's the matter, Mrs. Patch?
Wait. That isn't Nora Gellhorn.
It isn't.
No, that's Emma Randall.
The woman you said Gellhorn was in love with?
Yeah, but that's Nora Gellhorn's raincoat. I'm sure of it now that I see it close.
Since Mrs. Gellhorn isn't inside of it, you'll have to revise your theory. I guess you don't think Gellhorn would shoot the woman he's in love with.
No, he was crazy about Mrs. Randall. He wouldn't shoot her.
Too bad, Logan. For a few minutes it looked as though you had a sweet suspect in a case that was half sewed up.
Well, it may still be that way. Mrs. Patch, what kind of a guy is Randall, this dead woman's husband?
Well, he's a nice, quiet kind of
quiet
man.
kind,
yeah.
huh? Did he know about his wife and Gellhorn?
He must have. Everybody knew.
He sounds like the answer, Casey. This guy Randall stood all he could, then waited for his wife tonight and paid her off.
James Randall wouldn't do that. He couldn't have done it.
I'm afraid that's something you can't be sure of, lady.
But I am sure. Mr. Randall hasn't been outside of his apartment since early this evening. He was inside it when I heard shooting down here on the street.
How do you know he was inside?
Well, his living room window was just across the court from mine. One of his shades was up a few inches, and I saw him over there, lying on the couch.
You saw him?
Well, just by accident, of course. I never spy on my neighbors.
Well, that's that, Logan.
Yeah.
But there's another possible angle.
What?
That red raincoat. Mistaken identity.
Gellhorn may have thought he was shooting his wife.
That's it, Annie.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Mrs. Patch, you're sure this is Mrs. Gellhorn's raincoat?
Oh, I'm positive. I recognize it by those peculiar buttons and that little mended place on the right shoulder.
Well, have you any idea why Mrs. Randall should have been wearing it?
Well, I suppose Nora Gellhorn lent it to her.
Weren't they enemies?
Well, not outwardly. Like most jealous women, they made believe they were friends. Would have made things kind of difficult if they didn't, seeing as they not only lived in the same house, but worked in the same restaurant.
Worked in the same
Yeah,
restaurant?
Harley's Grill. They're both waitresses there.
Do you know if Mrs. Gellhorn or her husband are home now?
No, I don't. Their windows aren't on my side of the house.
That's too bad.
Let's find out for ourselves, Logan.
We will, Casey. Sergeant, take charge here.
Yes, sir.
Have Martin take Mrs. Patch down to headquarters and get a complete deposition from her.
Oh, I'd much rather go with you, Captain.
You and the captain can get together later, Mrs. Patch, but I'll shoot that picture of you now.
For the paper, Mr. Casey?
The best paper in town.
Oh, goodness, I look just a fright in this old coat. On account of rain, I didn't get...
Fine clothes on you would only gild the lily.
Oh, Mr. Casey.
Well, now, just stand just as you are. Hold that bewitching smile. That does it.
You want to take another?
If he does, he's staying here without me. Come on, Miss Williams.
I'll take more shots of you later, Mrs. Patch. Coming, Logan.
With prices mounting everywhere, here's a fact that's worth noting. Right now, on the shelves and counters of your favorite chain, variety hardware and department stores, you will find a wide variety of pale blue Fire King oven glass dishes at prices far lower than you would have paid for any baking dish a few years ago. And each piece of Fire King oven glass, regardless of price, is guaranteed for 2 years against oven breakage. Now is a good time to replace your worn-out kitchen utensils with new and beautiful, easy-to-clean and easy-to-keep clean Fire King oven glass. Remember that Fire King oven glass is not only a sturdy, dependable friend in the kitchen, it is also an adornment to your table. Fire King oven glass is a product of Anchor Hocking. A great name in glass.
Try to pull yourself together, Mr. Randall. I'm sorry we've had to bring you such rotten news.
And my wife. Dead.
It's tough, fella.
Please let me go to her. I got to see her.
Not now.
Later, pal.
Yeah, but she's lying down there in the street, you say, in the rain.
They'll have taken her away by now, Mr. Randall. You can go to her when you get a little more used to the idea of what you'll have to see.
Maybe that'll be better. Who killed her, Captain? Who shot my wife?
Well, we hope you may be able to help us find that out.
I don't know. I can't help you.
Before we came to you, we stopped at the Gellhorn's apartment. Nobody was home.
Why'd you stop there?
Well, we want to meet Mr. Gellhorn, especially. Is he a friend of yours?
He's a neighbor.
I see.
You've been talking to people, Captain. Someone's been telling you things.
Oh, frankly, yes. Randall, do you think...
No. Ferris Gellhorn would be the last man in the world who'd kill my wife.
That wasn't the question I meant to ask you. You think he's the sort who'd kill his own wife?
I don't know.
Now, when you let us in here, Mr. Randall, you said you'd been asleep.
Yeah, I was tired and I came home from work and I lay down on the couch there.
What time was that?
It was around 6:30, Mr. Casey. I slept until your knock at the door woke me up.
There was plenty of daylight when you fell asleep. Around 6:30, Mr. Randall. Why did you turn the electric lights on then?
The light?
Yeah. We saw a crack of light under the door before we knocked and woke you up.
Well, you see, when my wife was working late, Mr. Casey, I always turned the light on for her if I was going out or going to sleep. You see, she hated to come home to a dark apartment.
Will you keep your big mouth shut, Casey, and let me handle this?
It was a question we wanted answered, wasn't it?
Well, I'd have asked the question, and I'll check on the answer. Now, you attend to your job and let me attend to mine.
Okay, I'll take some pictures.
Now?
Well, Morning Express readers will want to know what the dead woman's apartment looks like. That'll be a good shot of this living room. Now I'll get one of the bedroom.
Yeah.
Mr. Randall, you must try to pull yourself together. You just must.
Yeah, I'll do my best, Miss Williams.
How long had you been married, Randall?
8 years.
When did you and your wife meet the Gellhorns?
Well, about 2 years ago, Captain.
What sort of a fellow is Gellhorn?
I hate the guys inside. He's a lousy wolf and a double-crosser. But if you suspect him of her murder, I know you're wrong.